Welcome to this explainer. We're going to dive right into the evolutionary journey of one of the most common foods on our entire planet. We are literally unlocking millions of years of history today, so let's just get right into it. Okay, we have to tackle this age-old riddle right off the bat. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? I mean, think about it. If you say the chicken, well, which egg did it hatch from? And if you say the egg, which chicken laid it? It's this classic mind-bending paradox. But it actually leads us directly into a fascinating scientific mystery that we are absolutely going to solve today.
To get a definitive answer, we've got to travel back in time. By mapping out a simple chronological timeline and tracking the evolutionary development of both the egg and the birds side by side, we can unlock exactly how this whole thing went down from the very beginning.
Let's rewind way, way back to 375 million years ago and see how this builds. Early amphibious animals, like the Tiktaalik rosé, were just coming out of the water and starting to live on land. Now, they laid ancient eggs, but they were super soft and squishy. Think, much more like the fish eggs you might imagine today. They completely lacked any kind of hard outer shell. But then, 300 million years ago, something incredible happens. The hard outer shell membrane that we associate with a modern egg finally evolves. So get this, the egg as a biological vessel existed long, long before anything even resembling a bird walked the earth. Fast forward to 150 million years ago, right when dinosaurs ruled the planet. Evolution was going in all sorts of directions. While some dinosaurs evolved into terrifying, massive predators like the T-Rex, others actually got smaller and evolved into the very first birds. Believe it or not, the T-Rex's closest living relatives today are ostriches and chickens. Yeah, from the apex predator of the Jurassic period to your modern farmyard friend. Crazy, right? Jumping all the way forward to about 3,500 years ago, around 1500 BC, early human agriculture in Southeast Asia started producing these massive, abundant crops of grains like rice and millet. And this massive surplus of food acted like a magnet. Instead of spending all day foraging for a really difficult meal in the wild, a very specific wild bird was lured right out of the nearby jungle and straight up to human settlements for a super easy feast. Over generations, just hanging around these early farms, human domestication slowly transformed that wild bird, which was known as the wild red jungle fowl, or Gallus gallus, into the Gallus gallus domesticus. That's the modern domesticated chicken we all know today. So, to finally solve our riddle, we have to look at what scientists call the proto-chicken. Think of it as a creature existing right on the gray borderline of becoming a modern bird. It was almost, but not quite, a true chicken. You see, evolution is a game of tiny, gradual steps. At one specific point in history, two of these almost chickens mated. During that exact reproduction, a tiny genetic mutation occurred. The DNA of the very first true chicken was combined and formed entirely inside the resulting egg. So, the answer is completely clear based on our timeline. The egg absolutely came first. It was laid by an ancestor species just before the true chicken was born. The biological egg predated the chicken by hundreds of millions of years. Mystery solved. Now that we've put that ancient mystery to rest, let's look at another massive debate surrounding this food. Are eggs vegetarian or non-vegetarian? A lot of people naturally assume that eating an egg means you're consuming a life, right? But here's the biological reality. It's split into two completely distinct types. Haploid eggs are unfertilized, they contain only female sex cells and literally can never produce a baby. Diploid eggs, on the other hand, are fertilized via mating with a male, and those are the ones that will actually hatch a chick. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, can an unfertilized egg just hatch on its own? The answer to that lies in a fascinating process called parthenogenesis. The word literally translates to virgin creation. It's the remarkable ability to reproduce and develop an embryo from a completely unfertilized egg. And while this virgin creation genuinely happens in certain plants like pineapples and bananas, and amazingly even in animals like lizards, zebra sharks, and rattlesnakes, the straight answer for chickens is a hard no. An unfertilized chicken egg can never, ever become a chick. So if you've ever been cooking breakfast and cracked an egg only to see a small red blood spot, seriously, don't panic. It's just from a burst blood vessel near the ovaries during the laying process. It is absolutely nothing to worry about, and it is definitely not a potential embryo. Because commercial eggs contain no life, the Indian Supreme Court officially held in 2004 that eggs are in fact vegetarian. This was actually a sentiment shared much earlier by Mahatma Gandhi, who compared eating these sterile, unfertilized eggs to simply drinking cow's milk. So they're vegetarian, and frankly, they're incredibly good for you. And by the way, regardless of shell color, brown and white eggs have absolutely identical nutrition. The color just depends on the specific breed of the chicken. Eggs are just this affordable, accessible superfood. They remain a crucial, nutrient-dense source of essential vitamins and proteins, helping to fight malnutrition all over the globe. Now, let's look at a pretty astounding number, 15. The ancient ancestors of the chicken, that wild red jungle fowl we talked about foraging in the jungles of Southeast Asia, only naturally laid about 10 to 15 eggs in an entire year. That was their natural biological limit. Contrast that wild ancestor with today's commercial layers. Modern chickens lay between 200 and 300 eggs per single year. That is a staggering biological leap. So how did we possibly jump from just 15 eggs to 300 eggs a year without millions of years of evolution? The answer lies entirely in human interference. The driving force here wasn't natural selection at all. It was artificial selection. Humans practiced selective breeding. We intentionally chose and bred the specific chickens that laid the most eggs, and we just repeated this process over thousands and thousands of generations. Now, while some people might view this as unnatural, humans have used artificial selection globally to shape almost everything we eat. We bred cows for more milk. We turned simple wild mustard weeds into broccoli and cabbage. Even bananas. Like 7,000 years ago, bananas were tiny and practically inedible because they were full of huge, hard black seeds until we selectively bred them into the sweet, seedless fruits we love today. This entire practice of domesticating nature really took off about 12,000 years ago, leading early humans to shift away from hunter-gatherer lifestyles to fully embrace agriculture. We began completely altering the landscape. I mean, the Sumerians were already using sulfur as natural insecticides 4,500 years ago just to protect their crops. It was such an intense shift that author Yuval Noah Harari points out a really brilliant irony. Our ancestors lived comfortably without farming for millions of years. But the rise of wheat, around 8,000 BC, forced us to break our backs, clearing rocks, hauling water, and totally changing our entire existence just to care for a wild grass. So in a way, wheat domesticated us. So, as you reflect on the 300 million year timeline of the egg and how we've so drastically reshaped the very DNA of our entire food supply through selective breeding, it leaves us to ponder a massive question. In our highly modified modern world, where do we actually draw the line between natural and unnatural? Definitely something to think about the next time you crack open an egg. Thanks for exploring this history with me.